Right. Are we live? Are we working? Something went very, very wrong there for some reason. I don't know what happened. Hopefully you can hear me now. All of a sudden, I had it all set up. All of a sudden, I pushed the button to go live and the connection went. So we're here now. Apologies for that. How are we all doing? It's Sunday night and it's chance for us to have another chat about what we're going to be doing in our gardens and our allotments this week. And this week, I'm specifically looking at what we are, how we go about planning our gardens. Something I think many of us are doing a lot of at the moment. First up, let's have a look and see if anybody is actually out there. So first of all, I can see Ballycillian. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. We got Oracle. Good evening to you. Hope you are well too. Turbo Stream, good evening to you. Hope you are well. What else have we got? Turbo Stream, we've just seen you've had a loss of a family member. I'm very, very sorry to hear that. Hope everything sorts itself out and that you're doing okay. Philly SPB, good evening to you. Rebecca Hawkins, good evening to you. What else? Who else? Hargrave Gas, good evening to you. Hope you've had a good week too. Stuart Jackson, good evening to you. Hope you're well, and hello to the Veg Grower Army. Muddy Boots, hello all, and a belated Happy New Year to you all. Happy New Year to you too. Digwell Greenfingers, same bat time, same bat channel, same bat faces. Well, in theory, that should be what happens, yes. Amanda Joy, good evening to you. And Anna Jones, good evening to you. Let's have a look. Beatrice, good evening to you. And Margaret Peacock, good evening to you. Anybody else? Richard Lewis as well. Hello to you. Welcome. Did you get my reply to your email the other day? Ian Beddoes, good evening to you. Ian Suggett, good evening to you. Not a family member, just my snooker / allotment mate. Oh, sorry to hear that. Anyway, I actually had a family member lost this week as well on my stepfather's side. But when I would see him, I would have a chat about our allotments, funnily enough. So a bit of a sore point this week, certainly. But we'll move on from that. Richard Golden has joined. Good evening to you. And Stuart Jackson, love the new podcast, new format. Thank you. Yes, I thought it will change things up with the new podcast that went out on Monday night. I quite like it. It's certainly a lot more work, but I don't mind that. Right. So, as always, I like to start off with what have I been up to over this last week. And as I said just now, yes, we lost a family member this week. My step uncle, I guess, is the easiest way to describe it. He was old. I mean, he was in his 90s, so it wasn't a shock. But I do remember quite often, last time I saw him, certainly, we would chat about our allotments and what we would have done. And he had just given up his allotment, actually, when I last spoke to him. And I remember he'd saying he just cleared everything out and left it in this perfect condition. Went back to see it 3 months later, and it had just been a mess, which broke his heart. But that's the joys of allotments. Yesterday, very wet, a lot of rain, but I went into the greenhouse I have at home, ripped out the tomatoes so that had stopped growing. We had a frost this week. First time we've had a frost this year, and it came along and it killed off even the tomatoes in the greenhouse and a lot of other things, which was about time, and I was quite glad about that as well. So cleared out the greenhouse, tidied things up. I've started forcing my rhubarb, one of my rhubarb crowns. So I've just put a big pot over the top of it to try and force this rhubarb and get some sweeter stems. Popped down the allotment this morning, and what did I do down there? Just a quick visit, really, a bit of a look around, harvested some leeks, harvested some Jerusalem artichokes, cleared up a few bits and pieces, and started pruning my apple and pear trees and my currant bushes. So that brings it up with what I've been up to over this last week. So please do let me know what you've been up to in your own allotments, in your own gardens as well. Turbo Stream is also liking the new podcast format. Thank you. I'm very pleased to hear that. So this is somebody obviously in the Facebook group. Unfortunately, if you're in the Facebook group, you may not see who you are. It comes up with Facebook user. First time listening, so looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Indeed, I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone else has to say as well. We had frost, snow, rain and sunshine this week. It certainly has been one of those weathers, a week full of different weather. We didn't get snow, but we had rain, we had frost, we've had sunshine today. Yesterday was just so much rain as well. It's quite a lot of rain. So what have we done? Loads of sowing done today. Herbs, chilies and Swiss chards, etc. Indeed. Yes, lots of things that we can be sowing this month and lots of things that I do like to sow as well. Ian Beddoes had strong winds, heavy rain, sleet and snow, so it's been a model railway week. Yeah, I think it's certainly been a week for being inside. Muddy Boots is sowing onion seeds and chilies for me this week. Excellent. Nice to see you've been busy. And Turbo Stream, this week I potted up some of the lettuce seeds that had sprouted on tissue paper. Fantastic, fantastic. Now, you may well recall the last couple of weeks we haven't been in this shed. I have made some changes in here over the Christmas period. It's still not quite completed, but we're getting there. Obviously, the things I have over the back, the pegboards, they are staying because they've been fantastic and I like them. And they're great for just hanging your tools up and nice and easily. But what has gone on this side, I have my grow lights set up here on shelves that basically just become a bit of a mess, and I've got rid of that. I've kept these buckets, which I quite like. That one has multi-purpose compost in it. I've got seed compost in that one. I've got a couple more for chicken feed and things like that. And this has been part of the organisation and making my season better. The only thing I've got to figure out is how to set up the grow lights and the heated propagators. So a few more comments have came in. I will pop to the plot this week just to see if it's still there. It might have blown away for all we know. Adrian, hello to you. Hope you are well. Mighty Boots, are you going to show us the new cupboards? You know what? I haven't got... I wouldn't say they're new cupboards. They're just kind of... I tell you what I can do. I can give you a quick glimpse of this worktop that I have from above. It's a bit of a hickledy-pickledy. I'm planning on getting a video out at some point, actually showing this, because it's been a... Basically, I'm using up a load of stuff that I haven't had sitting in my garage for ages. These worktops, I've got 3 of them in here. Some old kitchen units that I'm using to store things, and an old fridge that I'm also using to store things. Basically, I'm just using them up because my garage was full of stuff, and now I've got an extra vehicle. I need to clear the garage out and actually start using it for storing a vehicle, believe it or not. Alice McGowan has joined. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Stuart Jackson has got his grow lights up and running thanks to Father Christmas. Yes, he mentioned last week that he had got some new grow lights and was wondering how was the best way to use them. And I think we all helped with that. Love the new podcast and new shed. Look, it's all looking great. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Lovely to get that feedback. Ian McCragan, has joined. He wants to go in McCragan. Good evening to you. And we want to see the camper van too, LOL, from Turbo Stream. Well, I might be making up a different channel for the camper van. More on that next week when it's when I've figured it all out. So, on that note, what I want to first of all show you is I've got a video that's been sent to me from Ballycillian via Philly, and it's to do with what we were talking about last week, a show us your plot video. So let's quickly get that up and have a look at what's going on in this allotment.
Hello Richard, only still allotment one here, real quick here. Just start off here. This is, I've got my first bed ready for my potatoes. Nothing planted of course, just getting things ready. We'll walk on right here. The apple tree, black pepper, bit of garlic just starting to come up there. Getting the beds ready. This is a mess. Doing a bit of tidying up this time of year, but we'll get the various beds. And I cleared a bed from the year before. I write down what I'm going to grow the following year so that I get the pH of each bed ready. Bit of work, but we'll get there in the end. Walk around here. That's going to be the potato bed number 2. I'll have a soft watering system using this water, but once I get it all sorted. A couple of buckets here just for a bit of spring colour there, the tulips coming up. My 2 pear trees, 2 plum trees, bit of rosemary. Daffodils all comes up here in the spring. We seek an area for a cup of tea when we're up. Then underneath here, 3-year-old strawberries. That's over there last year. On top here, my carrot boxes. It's the only way I can sort of grow carrots without the dreaded carrot fly attacking them. And as we walk on round, again, that's the last wee bit of celeriac there. Bit of spring sprout and broccoli over there. Walk on up again, just preparing beds just more or less for the following season. And here, strawberry plant bed number 2. These are 2-year-old strawberry plants. In the fruit cage, it's mainly raspberries and blueberries. The hanging baskets will have first-year strawberries in them. I won't allow them to flower or create runners. Then the following year they transfer into bed number 2. Number 2 is transferred into bed number 3. Just a rotation system to keep the strawberries fresh. We'll walk on over these beds. These beds are getting prepared for cabbage. And in here, it's a bit wild at the minute, but I'll let it go wild this springtime. There's a pond in there. Gives the frogs cover over the winter. Brilliant on the plat. Done away with 80% of my slug problem. Couldn't recommend the pond anymore. Blackcurrant bush here, but there'll be dahlias and things put around it for a bit of colour. Main rhubarb bed here. Haven't made my mind up about what's going in that bed yet, but at the back it's my asparagus bed. Then there's 2 cherry trees, the 2 blue drums, that's where I grow my courgettes. Basically all plain simple stuff. We'll go around here now and have a look at the polytunnel. Polytunnel number 2, that's a bit of a mess again, I'm in the process of clearing out. But all my seeds will start here. I'm planting a bit of pot of onions, seeds in at the minute. Up this side just early strawberries, wee bit of garlic growing, and that'll be early potatoes in that corner once I get it all cleared. Just while we're in here, Big Whale from the Veg Grower podcast recommended this book, Japanese Style Companion Planting. Couldn't recommend it enough. 80% of the information in it, never heard of it, would never have dreamt of doing it. Going to try the ideas in it this year. Don't want to spoil the book for anybody that wants to read it. Well worth the read. Right here now to polytunnel number 1. Well, just when we're passing, what was the trouble with parsnips? Grow them in these large tubs now. Bore holes, fill in, soil, sow seeds. Never any more trouble. Get parsnips out of this. Great. Compost bins. This is the wife's polytunnel, so can't take a lot of credit for this one. She grows her sweet corn up this side. She'll grow her tomatoes up this side. The chilli plants along the bench. And then everything will be interplanted with lettuce, scallions, just whatever's available at the time. Probably should have said at the start, this is a half plat, but it's just nice to work.
What a great looking plot, I've got to say. I really enjoyed that little pot. It's so neat and tidy. I think a few of you have mentioned that in the comments. Not neat and tidy, which I'm really envious of, because I'm not a neat and tidy person in the slightest. But not only that, what I really also like is the ingenuity, like the buckets hanging up on the side of polytunnels and things. Just the ingenuity that goes into allotments, I always think makes it look great. But fantastic video. Please do send us more videos and show us your plots, show us your allotments, anything you want to show off would be great. Let's quickly go to the comments and see what everyone has been saying. Where was I seeing? So I think Ian McGorgan, has anyone seen artichokes for sale? I bought some ginger and corn lettuce seeds plus Picasso potatoes this weekend. Do you mean globe artichokes or Jerusalem artichokes? Is my question to you. Sean O'Brien has joined. Good evening to you. Amanda Joy is saying, "What a great plot!" And indeed, it is. Ballycillian or Muddy Boots is saying to Ballycillian, "Impressed with the layout. Very neat." Indeed, very, very neat, I've got to say. It makes me so envious seeing that. Julia's joined. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Beatrice is saying, hope you feel better soon. I think Adrian said he's not feeling very well, but hope you get well soon as well, Adrian. Digwell, great book, Turbo Stream. I have the same one. Good ideas in it, even if the veggies are maybe mostly Asian. Not sure what book that was on about. Who else have we got? Anything else? Stuart Jackson is saying, a lot cleaner than my garden. I'm going to steal some of them ideas, i.e. buckets on the side. I think the book the Turbo Street, or somebody was referring to, was actually for Ballycillian that he showed in that tour. Companion Planting, I think it was called. Yeah, what a great looking plot, I've got to say. And I'm hoping we get more of those throughout this year. And like I say, every 3 months we're going to do that show. We did it last week. Show us your plots, where we can all just have a look at everyone's plots throughout the year and see how much they've changed. And that just adds to that. Now, what I want to talk about tonight is how, 20 minutes in, I haven't even got into the main subject. How do you go about planning your allotments, your gardens, and so on? Now, this is something that I spend a lot of time talking about, saying we should be planning more, especially in the winter months. And I try and do it. I'll be honest, I try and do it. But I end up with just way too much stuff that I think is going to make my life easier. In the past, I've bought allotment planning books from Amazon or Etsy, which I think are great. They've lasted all of 5 seconds. Never really even written in them in some cases. So what I usually like to do is I've got scraps of bits of paper everywhere. I do use a website called Veg Plotter, which I want to show you a bit later. We showed that last week. But scraps a bit of paper, whiteboards, and I'm forever trying to work that out. Now, in terms of planning, I usually have a system specifically on the allotment where each bed basically moves along each year. So the garlic bed at the moment has just gone back to its first ever position. So we've been 6 years round with the 6 beds. So that's in one bed this year. Next year, that'll be in another. And they just move along in that same rotation. But now I've got the second half of the plot. I'm going to be building on that and adding more. But again, I'm going to stick with that. Just the garlic goes in that bed, beans go in that bed, and just move it along each year. Same as the potatoes, same as sweet corn. When it comes to seed sowing, what I like to do is just go through my seed box about once a year, get rid of any seeds that I don't need, and just work out each month what I can sow and try and sow them that month. Something that I'm sowing in January, of course, onions are going to be sown in, aubergine and chilies, of course. A few other summer cabbages, summer cauliflowers, and lots of other things that I want to be sowing throughout January. Now, there's not any particular plan that I have in place. It's all done through experience and knowledge. But I know there's some people that are very, very good at planning. So I want to find out what you have. Now, you can zap yourself in on the link that is going up in the comments right now. If you're watching in a Facebook group, you may not see this. Or you can call in on the phone number, which, let's pop the banner up so you know. Which one is it? That one there. 07307 135 174. Just realised that's the Christmas version, but we can cope with that for now. Now, right. So, first of all, Adrian is saying 14 weeks to dry that he hasn't had an alcoholic drink. Well done, Adrian. Fantastic to see and fantastic to do. And Ballycillian is saying, you have to take some credit for my plot, Nigel. I followed your videos for years. Indeed, yeah, Nigel was very, very good with his videos. It's got to be said. Somebody's calling me on my main number, on my personal number, but I can't answer that at the moment. I wouldn't have to leave a message. Money Boots. I don't know if anybody out there who's called me on my main number. I don't recognise that number. I've standardised the size of my raised beds. I created a bed plan in Excel because I practice 4-year crop rotation. The beds move up one each year. So, yeah, that's kind of similar to what I do with my 6-bed rotation. They just move up each year. And garlic goes in one, onions in another, shallots in another, beans in another, sweet corn in another, and cabbage in another. And I just move them around, which has just worked out very, very simple for me. I believe if you ever watch any of Nigel's videos, he sometimes show the Excel that he has and printed off on his videos. Stuart Jackson, the planning of my own garden is easy, but it's harder at school as each class wants to grow different things. That's why we had onions and strawberries in the same bed at school. Yeah, I mean, I can see the school being a very difficult one to try and organise because there's so many different people involved. And I know, Stuart, when it comes to teaching the kids, it's very much the kids do what they want to do. But planning of your own garden, Stuart, tell us a bit more about that. What else have we got? I sowed red cabbage today. Please tell me it's not too late. No, it's fine. Excuse me. What else have we got? No luck yet with the germination of the bacon seeds. Might have popped them in a bit too early. So, yeah, Ian is trying to grow bacon on his, or got some bacon seeds. And we're all excited to see how he gets on with those. I plan on pen and paper, then usually forget, and then just plant stuff where there is a ready space. Yeah, I've got to say that's pretty much my way, although I do have another thing that I will show you in a minute. Just finishing a new video about the Spreadsheet seed tracker. Now, that's something I'm going to be watching, believe it or not. I'm going to watch a YouTube video. Because I am interested in all these spreadsheets on seed trackers. I've seen people doing these. First of all, I don't really know how to use spreadsheets. I'm not an IT person, but I'm always interested to see how people create these spreadsheets and how they keep track of them. I mean, it's amazing just the sheer amount of work that goes into it, in my eyes. I think that's part of the reason I'm no good at doing these plans. Rebecca is just starting a school garden club at school, so going to need all your top tips, Stuart. There we go. Did I actually share your email addresses? I can't remember. I know probably one of those things I was meant to. Stuart, onions and strawberries are great companions. There you go. And Money Boots, with the bacon seeds, soak below with brown sauce. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Jerusalem artichokes are what I am after. Also going to get some walking stick kale seeds to make a stick. Right, Ian, I've got to message you to arrange our meetup, but I have some Jerusalem artichokes that you can have and plant. So leave that with me. I will sort that out for you. I really need to plan out the plot. One thing I will try and do properly in 2022. Yeah. Ballycillian, I plan on paper, then lose it. That's why each year when a bed is finished, I screw a piece of slating lathe onto the bed with what I'm going to grow into it the following year, wrote on it. We saw that in that video, and I liked that idea. I have to say, I did like that idea a lot. Richard Lewis has also gone on to say to Ian, the bacon seeds needs lots of heat. Try a heated propagator or pop them over a radiator. Any other might work as well. Yeah. Stuart Jackson, my own garden is not very big, so I now only grow food that we eat. All the other plants will be sold. That's why the whole packet got sown today. P.S. It's okay to pass on my details. I am always happy to help others with schools. Leave that with me, Stuart, and I will do that. Now, as I said, one thing that I do use quite often for planning my garden is Veg Plotter, which the creator is actually in the group. Am I going out? Is that actually so? Let's pop this out. Oh, hang on. So let's click on the large allotment plans, and you get an idea of what we're talking. That's hang on. That's not the one I was looking for. Let's click on this one. Is this the one I'm looking for? I think this is the one. No, not that one. But anyway, you get the idea. Oh, no, sorry, my mistake. 1288. 1288. That might be the better one. Yeah, here's the one that I was looking for. As you can see, I play around quite a bit with it to get an idea of what we have. So this is a drag and drop interface. Richard Lewis, who is in the group, actually created this. Which is why I'm giving it a mention. And this is the sort of the design of my bottom half of my allotment. Just check you can all see it. There we go. So up in the top left-hand corner, we've got my greenhouse. I've got my rhubarb, which is over at the top there. Then we've got asparagus and a few other things. And these are all my beds and my compost heaps. So this bed here we know is going to be garlic. So and down the side here we have, let's search for garlic actually, it might be easier. Garlic. So we drag and drop and because I'm going to fill that bed all up with onion, garlic. We drag and drop, and there we go. You can see how much you can fit in that bed. The great thing about Veg Plotter, it does tell you when the best time to sow and various things like that. So it's not there's quite a lot of information that I find in there, and it also tells you when to plant and so on. So that's one of my favourite things to use, Veg Plotter. Best thing about it is that it's free as well. And I think that's a price that most allotmenteers and gardeners can get behind. So yeah, that's one system I've got to admit that I really do like. Let's just have a quick look at what everyone is saying. Cornish Heaven. Hi Richard and all. Joined the chat through the plot tour here in Sussex, going home tomorrow to Cornwall at 3 a.m. Oh, well, lovely to see you, and hope you have a safe journey back down to Cornwall. Rebecca, I must admit, I'm not the biggest planner. I tend to go with the flow. Maybe I should get more organised. But this is what I'm trying to figure out. I've got to admit, I like to be planned, but I find that all my plans just seem to go out the window because of various things that seem to go on throughout the year. Ian McGaw, cheers, Richard. I have some bits for you too. Fantastic, no worries. I will message you tonight. I've been meaning to do it all week. Good work, Stuart from Ballycillian. And something must be wrong. I don't have any temp low. I've almost given up with docs. I can never see them. Oh, this is talking about Adrian feeling unwell. So yes, that is. Let's remove that. That is something that I like to use, vegplotter.co.uk. It's a bit fiddly, I think, when you first set it up. But once you play around with it, you've got it sorted, and you figure all the things out, it becomes quite easy to use. Print off the plans, hang them up in the shed, in the garden. Nice and easy. And like I say, it does go throughout the year, and you have things that you can use that will help you. It would have been should have got Richard Lewis on this live show about this. So yeah, I'm just going to have a swig of this coffee. So that's something that I also do use. Now, another thing that I'm a big fan of, and I'm very good at doing this, is to-do lists. I write to-do lists a lot. And I like to use, personally, if it depends where I'm at. If I'm at work or somewhere where I haven't got a whiteboard around me, I use a scrap of paper. And I write a list of jobs that I want to do. And then I will try and list the most important towards the top, or the most important jobs with a number 1 or something next to it, so I know that they are the most important jobs. And what I determine specifically is the most important is that if I don't do that particular job, something's going to die or something's going to be seriously damaged. For me, that's a number 1. And then as we get worked down through the list, making them less and less important based on their criteria. So something that is the least important is something that could do with being done, that can wait. And of course, as we move on throughout the year, or move on throughout, it changes all the time. That's why quite often what I'll do, especially when I go down the allotment, first thing I will do is just walk around with my whiteboard and make a note of things that need attention. Ian is asking Julia if she's going to sow some veg this year. You never know. We'll keep an eye and see what happens. Richard is saying, thanks, Richard, for showing Veg Plotter. Obviously planning Veg Plotter 2. Not so good and following through with the plans. Yeah. So Richard Lewis, as I said, is the creator of Veg Plotter. And yeah, following through with the plans is a pretty, I find, certainly a tough thing to do. But I think that's part of the thing with gardening, is that when we are looking to like sow seeds or pot our potatoes out, there are times that we have to sort of sit back and say, no, it's too cold for that, or it's too wet. So all our best made plans may well wait. Now here's somebody who's probably very good at making plans. If we can just sort the camera out. Here we go. Stuart Jackson. Hang on.
Hello, I've gone.
You've gone. You were there, but I can hear you.
Hang on a minute. Don't know, I'll come back to you in a minute.
Okay, no worries.
All right, I'll come back in a sec.
Let's get rid of him for a second and see. Excuse me. Let's see what happens. Back to the comments quickly. Toby Spring, that Veg Plotter looks to be very comprehensive. It is very good because it is very comprehensive, has a lot of features in it. There are some other online planning things out there, but they're nowhere near as good as Veg Plotter, in my opinion, and they usually cost a lot of money. Veg Plotter, I mean, go try it. You know, it costs nothing to go try it, and if you get on with it, let us know. I should say, yes, I know Richard Lewis has been on the podcast. He's not paying me anything to say anything. This is just completely independent. Looks like Stuart Jackson is back.
Yeah, I don't know what I did. Probably switched you off.
You were there, and then you froze.
Yeah, it's just when you live out in the sticks, the technology's just a bit slow.
You don't even have to be out in the sticks, to be honest.
Oh, how's everything at your end?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How's yourself?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, busy morning. Well, sort of hour or two sowing seeds, catching up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
you said earlier what you've been sowing.
Yeah, just our weather's been so erratic that I haven't had a chance to even get into the greenhouse, let alone do any work. So I commandeered the dining table this morning.
Yeah, we all do that.
Yeah, so sweet peppers, dahlias, basil, Swiss chard, coriander, basil, the purple basil, and then red cabbage. So I'm a little bit behind where I should be.
Yeah. I think this year just suddenly came out of nowhere. So, how do you go about planning your garden out, though, Stuart?
Well, I tend to grow. Last year and the year before, I tended to grow everything, and then you realise you don't really like that. You know, you grow it because you think you're going to like it, or it was, I get that packet as well. I like celeriac. Loads of people love it. I can't stand it, but I grew loads of it last year.
Yeah.
So it'll be in the garden. There will be, like, at the moment, there's broad beans, garlic, and onions, and then I'll have carrots, parsnip, things that I know that everybody in the house is going to eat. And then I will grow potatoes, but they'll be in buckets or bags. I've got loads of herbs because I've got the veg pod now, so that is sort of full of lettuce leaves or herbs. Trying to keep, I can't believe the coriander is still going bonkers. It's like spring, it's so I'm trying to sort of, I haven't really planned what I'm going to grow yet. It's as I sow the seeds, I'm going to decide if it's going to go in the garden or on the table.
Right. Yeah.
So, and because I'm really lucky, apart from the club seeds, I don't buy very many seeds because people know what I do. I tend to get a few packets here and a few packets there. So I don't buy very many. I buy a few for school, but I bought a lot of peas and broad beans for school just so I can carry on growing through the winter at school. So there are broad beans and peas in my garden, but the peas are in buckets because it's just easier for me to move them into a sheltered area. Then I don't have to put them in the greenhouse or put them under cover. I can get them tucked up against the house or between the greenhouse and the shed, then they stay frost free and they tend to survive. Put them in the garden, the mice eat them, no matter what I do.
Sorry, say that again.
If I put peas or broad beans in the garden as small or even seeds straight into the ground, the mice will have them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a common problem.
Yeah.
That's a very common problem. The old way to stop that was actually to soak the seeds in paraffin. Now, I'm not going to say do that, but chicken wire is the way to stop it from happening, apparently.
I did try covering them up with the big clotch I've got, but then I find because my garden's not quite big enough for the clotch, that is a job I've got when as long as I get a couple of dry days, is to make it a bit wider. The birds get under it, so I end up going down there, lifting it up to let the birds out.
Yeah.
So, and that's the last thing I want is I want to attract wildlife to my garden, but I don't want to trap them in my garden, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oracle is asking, how big is your garden?
My garden at home, my veg patch is about 4.5 by 3.5 meters, but my garden is probably 5 times that size.
Right.
But it's because I work the same as everybody else. I haven't got the time to put in what I would like to put in my garden. So I probably do twice as much gardening at school as I do at home.
Yeah.
But then I also reap the benefit.
So, yeah, of course.
You know, I've had lots of potatoes from school this year. I was like you. I had a really good potato harvest at school. The beetroot did really well. Parsnips failed. The strawberries did really well. The fruit's done really well. The sprouts were absolutely rubbish. I don't know if school's the right place for things like sprouts because you need to cover them. Otherwise, the pigeons eat them or the jackdaws eat them.
Yeah.
You know, as a young plant, and then you get attacked by butterflies. And the kids want to see things. They don't want to put them through a mesh. You know, even if you put a netting frame over it, they can't see it. You've got to take it off to show them.
Yeah. But couldn't the kids make a scarecrow or lots of scarecrows?
Yeah, they will. They're up for most things. It's like I've been shopping this week for tools. So we've had to buy hammers, saws, screwdrivers, hand drills.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, they are going to start making things like scarecrows and raised beds.
Excellent.
Yeah, but like I'm going to come September, I'm reducing my hours, so there will be more time for me in the garden, and my garden will probably double in size then.
Sure.
So I'm starting collecting things like cardboard. So I'm not digging, not anymore.
Yeah.
That's
Digwell says that your garden is bigger than his 2 plots put together.
No, wow. The whole garden is, yeah. But my veg patch isn't. My veg patch ideally would be double the size.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
that I could properly rotate it rather than grow, sort of onions and stuff this year on one side of the bed, because the bed's one bed. You're only moving if you've got a problem one side to the other.
Yeah.
So I need to make it bigger, then divide it so I can properly rotate it. But as you know, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. So it's like somebody give me the clots to go over my garden. It's a bit big, but I then got to make the garden bigger to make it fit. So I'm not going to wait.
Of course. So I also know you sow a lot of seeds. Do you work out in advance when to sow certain seeds, or do you just rely on your own experience?
Well, flowers, its own experience. Like people say, don't sow lupins till March. It's no point. Well, if you sow them in March, they won't flower this year. So you've got to sow them in November, December, January. If you sow them before Christmas, they should flower the following year. So it's a lot of it is I've just picked up from Dad or other people. I do look at the books occasionally, very occasionally, the flowers. But I look at the flowers that they drop seeds in September or October. So they will start to germinate before Christmas. So if they're going to germinate in the ground, that means they're going to germinate in your greenhouse or in your cold frame. I tend to sow very early. I've been late this year because I had COVID, when I normally sow in my lupins and like perennial plants. I'm a little bit behind. So I've only got a sale till March, so I've got 2 months, 2.5 months.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
But I do take and I cut plants in half and things like that. So I know you can't do that with vegetables, but the flowers, you can just put a spade through them. You do with rhubarb, I know, and that's how most of my propagation is taking cuttings and cutting stuff in half. And I tried to teach the kids that as well, you know, because as we know, they're not all annuals. Vegetables are not all annuals. So if you leave a few in the ground, it's quite fascinating to watch the kids, you know, let a carrot go to seed.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to be self-sufficient in carrots, let a couple of carrots go to seed in a pot, and then you can get your own homegrown seed-saved carrots without really doing anything different.
Well, year 6 don't know it yet this week, but they're going to take cuttings from the fruit canes.
Yeah, good. Good to hear.
But they do other things as well. But that I will send a couple off with my partner in crime, and she will then do a bit of gardening with them all. So so every week's a learning week for me. Like, because I grow stuff every year that I've never grown before, probably same as you. And so some of it fails, some of it doesn't. But if it fails, you learn from failure as much as anything else. I think you learn more from the failures than you do from the good things.
Oh, I agree with that. Totally agree with that. Failures are where it is at. And in fact, if everything worked, it would be boring.
Yeah, I bought some rhubarb, and I thought I was being clever and put it in the greenhouse to protect it. But apparently that's no good. I've got to put it in the ground.
Yeah. Well, sorry, say that again.
I bought rhubarb.
Yeah.
And I put them in pots. I thought I'll put them in nice big pots, chuck them in the greenhouse, protect them over the winter. But apparently they need a frost.
Yes. Yeah, they need a frost. And they are very hardy, very difficult to kill with rhubarb.
Well, as you know, I have killed it in the past. So this time I'm going to try my best not to kill it.
Oh, yeah. Well, fingers crossed for you.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed indeed.
I've got 2 just in case.
Indeed, I've got to get a better stereo. It's not a speaker to hear you on this thing at the moment. Right, I'm gonna move you along, but thank you for sharing that. That's very interesting, and we'll go through the comments and then see some other ideas that have been shared.
Yeah, catch up with you later.
Have a good one. Cheers, Stuart.
Take care.
Bye. There we go. Ooh. Didn't even have to click remove there. He did it himself. So where were we with the comments? I saw where were we? So Julia is saying it is a must. No excuses this year for growing veg. Amanda, I have a notebook with my plot to-do list for the season, what to sow each month, and I make notes of what I've done on each visit. Yes, I've always said if I had a notebook, I think it should be made out of waterproof paper, because I used to have notebooks. I took down the allotment and it got wet, it got rained on, and it was no good. So waterproof paper is a definite must for a notebook. Money boots. I keep a whiteboard in my allotment greenhouse with to-do tasks. I managed to complete some. Yes, I'm a big fan of whiteboards. I've got to say, I've got whiteboards all over the place because they are just so convenient and reusable. And like, you create a to-do list on a whiteboard. When you've done it, you just wipe it off. It's so much easier, in my opinion, using a whiteboard. Amanda, I do enjoy drawing out a plot plan, but it changes every couple of weeks until everything is in the ground. Indeed, I agree with that. Yeah, everything does change. I do the same when in work, Richard. So as when I go to the plot, I have a plan of things to do, but I make list A and list B, one for dry day and one for wet day. That's a good idea. I try and look at the weather ahead of time, but like yesterday, I had big plans and the rain came along. I do the same to-dos. I have a waterproof notebook. There you go. Somebody else with a waterproof notebook. That is awesome for taking to the garden. I find nothing much gets done if I don't write it down what I need to get done. I've got to dig out my waterproof notebooks again. In fact, I was saying what we're going to do was sort of design what would be in one of these books. Well, that's for Julia, I think. Stuart's looking good. Wonder what filter he uses. I could do with an industrial filter for me. Oh no, Ian, you look lovely as always. Tabistream, I sent in some pictures of my plot plans. Sorry, Tabistream, I don't think I've got them. Apologies, I don't think I've got them. I've got some pictures coming up, but I don't recall seeing any from you. Sorry. So the Victorian gardeners used to put gorse in the pea trenches to stop mice. That would make sense. And perhaps peppermint would work as well. Ernie has joined. Evening, Richard. First dry day for nearly 2 weeks here. Excuse me. Yeah, I feel it was the same here. Yeah, it was a lovely dry day today. Really nice, actually. I sowed a few lupins before Christmas on Stuart's advice. Might sow a few more this week. I know there are some edible lupins which I've yet to get hold of, and I really want to try and grow edible lupins. I'm going to have to think about that for 2023 now. Anna Jones says, slugs always eat my lupins. As long as the carrots are F1, I'm not sure. I think I may have missed something there. Anyway, Cornish Evan, I lost 2 rhubarb plants when I went. I got 3 and all planted in the same container. Right, let's just have a look. Adrian is saying, my wife killed my rhubarb. I suspect because she hates it. House I grew up in with my mum and stepdad, we had this rhubarb that the previous owner planted there, and it grew back every single year. My stepdad would run over it with a lawnmower to try and get rid of it, and it still kept coming back. Digwell, I put urgent jobs in red on my spreadsheet. Indeed, that's going to be something I'll show in just a minute. Having my veg garden just outside my house, I'm very lucky, can pop out when I have 5 minutes. I need a whiteboard so I can plan tomorrow or next week's sowing. Yeah, go get some good whiteboards. I've got hundreds of things, from the big ones right down to the small magnetic ones. Just so easy. And I'm even like working out the podcasts and the shows I use whiteboards for. I sent via WeTransfer. Admittedly, it was this lunchtime. I don't think I got the email at all. Sorry, TurboStream. Otherwise, I would have downloaded it. On that note, I did have another video come in about this very subject from the one and only Dick Well Green Fingers.
Yeah, all right, guys. Well, seeing as we're discussing planners this week, I just thought I'd show you mine. I've been using this in one form or another for about 4 years now. So the first tab is things to do. I just use this one as a reminder of things to get on with. The date fills itself in and it tells me what I've got to be doing, where and when, basically. Looks like I need to sow some leeks and onions. Oh dear, and I've got an MOT next week. Oh dear, dear, dear. And at the bottom of that page, I've just put a few useful bits of info, like when to sow your first earlies and how long they take to crop. And I've got my compost mixes there as well. And next over we have a sheet showing all the seeds I've got and the months they should be sown in. Little X's in the squares there. It also shows me the seed suppliers so I know what colour tub they're in. Quite a few again this year. The ones highlighted in green are definites. The ones in grey I need to pick and choose. And over to the right hand side of each seed or each plant type I've got typical companion plants. Just a bit further over is anti-companion plants, but I shan't show you all those. And this sheet is filtered, so if I click on the month at the top of the page there, select the X's, it will tell me what needs sowing in which month, and there's all January's all queuing up for me. Cool. As I sowed them, I changed the X's to Z's or stars. I changed them to stars, and when I search again, they won't be there. And here you can see it on 2021 sheet. Z's mean I would have sown it if I had more seeds. Dark green means all the seeds have gone, and the star means sown. There we are. So there would be January's from last year, and that's what I didn't get round to planting. I also keep tabs of the seed tray numbers at the side there. It gets a bit awkward on the main sheet, so I'll just do it on a separate one. And again, here's 2021 sheet, and that's basically what I sowed in January last year. And it's got the pricked out dates and the planted out dates. And where the last tab did it all by seed tray number or seed variety number, this one does it by the variety name. And once again, it'll make more sense to look at 2021 sheet because there's more filled in. It's a bit more comprehensive, this one, with yellow meaning sowing and pricking and where they were sown. Green is planted out and where they were planted, GH for greenhouse. And blue is for harvesting and the weights harvested. So that was tomato Roma. This is tomato Rose de Bern. Blue at the end there means the harvest is finished. There we are again, sowing, planting and harvesting, cropping with the total weight. Anything in pink or red is a failure, so that tomato Sweet Million suffered from septoria. And the harvest rows top themselves up and give a running total per crop and per variety, and they total themselves up at the top. And it was 300 kilos last year, just about. Not bad. And onto the bed layouts for the two different plots. This is the leaf and ground one. So you can see bed 1, I've got leek autumn giant 2, kale peacock, blah blah blah, cauliflower Alschmere, and so on. And the same again for the west end plot, Brussels sprouts, broccoli claret, and the blue thing there, that's the loam mound. And just so it goes down, all the beds, tool store, compost bin. And this one just tells me what I grew where, what I grew when on the different beds at the two plots. I don't follow crop rotation, but it's just nice to know what I put where. And trying to keep all things in one place, here is the show schedule for Barclay on the 26th of June. Blue is the classes I hope to be entering, and the cookery ones are down below. Well, just an insight, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
My brain hurts. I'm no good with spreadsheets. I love the idea of them. I've got to say, I love to be able to do spreadsheets like that, but I've not really done much with IT. I don't really work on a computer. So I have no idea how to use a spreadsheet, but I love the idea. Richard Lewis says organizational ability envy. Rebecca says that's incredible. I think, what else did I see? Amanda says, well, that's a spreadsheet. Beatrice says, wow, so organised. Ian, as a gardener for 36 years, never used a spreadsheet, just my noddle box. Money Mix, my seed sowing master list. I laminate the blank sheet and then use a Sharpie to write onto the outer film. Bonus, it's waterproof. I do think something being waterproof is a must, especially when it comes to paper stuff. I think I said earlier, I got a waterproof notebook that I would probably use, but I find, again, the whiteboards are waterproof on a whole, which is why I prefer to use those. Well, I have spreadsheet envy from Laura W. Lovely to see you. Digwell, that's amazing. You will have to teach me. Yeah. I have creating a spreadsheet in my upcoming video. There we go. So Nigel's got an upcoming video about this very subject. Like I said, I've got no idea how to do spreadsheets at all. Yeah, I think to play on that detail, your brain has to be wired that way. I must be a simpleton. Yeah, I've got to say, I do think I struggle with it. But I like the idea and I'd love to be able to do it. It's just I also know I'm useless at trying to... If I've got to turn something on, then I don't take a note of it. I think that's why I prefer either whiteboards and notebooks, because I always have it to hand. That being said, I think what we're going to do in just a second is try and design up our own kind of like notebook allotment planner in just a second. But first of all, I want to bring your attention, let me zoom in a bit more actually, to this calendar that I found in the garden centre just the other day. Garden Days Family Organiser Calendar. Now, what I like about this, if you listen to the podcast probably about 4 years ago now, used to each year, zoom this in, each week we had a task of the week, and I used to read it out from what they said. Now let me try and get that just right. This is from 1st January, so it says clear all your dead foliage and so on. I won't go into that because we know all about that. Well, actually that's better there, isn't it? So this week just gone, it says move containers to a sheltered place and cover the surface with a thicker layer of straw for added protection. Not a bad idea. But for this coming week, can you believe that? We're that far into this gardening week already. Plant shallots in sheltered districts. Set the bulbs in shallow drills on well-prepared soil, allowing about 2.5 centimetres between each row. The bulbs should be placed approximately 20 centimetres apart, covered with soil that just their tips are showing. Sow early radishes and lettuce in a cold frame. So I'm going to bring this up. Each week I'm going to refer back to this calendar and follow the instructions. So this week, I bought some shallots the other day. I will plant some shallots out in the garden at home and see how they get on. But what I'm going to do each week is just read out what it says for this coming week and do that task throughout that week. Now, before we move on to this design our own allotment planner, I just want to remind you all to give us a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe, and all that jazz. Click the bell notification to know when I go live and all those things. This is the sort of thing I've got to say each week, otherwise I get told off. Now, I also want to share some pictures that I've received this week as well. See what we've got here. So these are photos that came in from you guys out there. Now, Stuart Jackson has sent in, he was talking about this earlier today. He's been sowing these sweet pepper seeds. As you can see, he's using these, what are they called? Paper pots in which to grow. He's also shared this picture of his vegetable patch. It's something we spoke about earlier, and you get an idea of the size. Ian Meadows has shared this, and I'm sure everybody has experienced this. It's the caption is saying, from the gardener, it's a bit late to ask me if you've pulled up a weed. Showing the wife who's pulled up what looks to be a proper plant. I've had experience with that with my nieces, helping me in the garden, and they pulled in up plants and asked if it was a weed. Steve has also sent in this picture of his, inspired by Amanda and I getting our little puppy. But it's a cockapoo, but he thinks it's doesn't quite tad up. He thinks he was missold it. Now, finally, Amanda has sent me this picture of something that she saw as she passed by the gates, and she looked at it and she grabbed it and she thought it was going to be a good idea for growing plants up. And I'd seen it and I immediately thought, put some chicken wire around it, and there you've got a pea climbing frame. That's just my thoughts on what we could do with that old football post. I like it, actually. I'm going to have to keep my eye out for one of those myself and try and do it myself. Now, I wanted to go on and develop our own sort of allotment planning guide, like a notebook. I've seen these in Amazon and Etsy, and I've bought several of these over the years, and they end up never being used. I think they're a good idea and they never get used. So what I want to find out from you, if you were to design your own garden planner, allotment planner, what would you have in it? Now, the first thing that I'm going to say is that it has to be on waterproof paper, and I would also want it so you can scan it and take a digital copy of it. The first two things I'm going to be off to the start with. Let's have a quick look. Helen D. Depp is saying, I remember the task of the week on the podcast. Yes, it's going back quite a while now, wasn't it? But I think it's the same calendar as well, so I thought I'll save that for this. Don't forget to like the show. Steve's Seaside has a good database you can use for free. There we go. I haven't seen it myself, but yeah, I know he's very, very organised, Steve. Very organised. Digwell, each to their own. If I used pen and paper, I would be lost. Yeah, I've got to say, I think I would be. I'm easier with a pen and paper. However, I want to get more digital. Proves we are all different, and it works for you. If not, then why not? Yeah. I've got to say, one of the easiest things that I've done for keeping track of what I've grown and where is actually the podcast, because I make an audio recording, as you know, with a diary. That audio recording just makes my life easier. It's so much easier, believe it or not, just to grab a microphone and record what you've done than trying to write things down, I find anyway. I used a version, his Airtable, but I was stumped when the internet went down for 3 days, so I reverted back to a spreadsheet. I haven't heard of Airtable, so I don't know on that. I will be using the Birmingham Local Adjusted Garden Focus Seed Diary to plan my seed sowing. Indeed, actually, that's a very good point. Garden Focused, it's a very good website, I've got to say, but it does look a bit amateurish. But you can adjust everything to your own local area, and I think that does make a big difference. What I would say, however, is you can't beat local knowledge. So it's very easy to go and sow some seeds. A lot of people are sowing seeds this month, for example, and it will be too early. I won't sow, for example, tomatoes till March because I know that it's too early to get them outside. How about square lined paper for the waterproof planner book? Yep, I'm all for square lined, especially when it comes. I think we should have a page for drawing out your allotment or your garden. And that should be on square lined paper. What I actually also want to do with this book is make it, instead of being just a notebook, like a file of facts. So each year we can take it out and replace the paper or add more paper as and when needed. Tombstone, I sowed my Brussels too early last year by 2 months, so a calendar will prevent me from sowing things at the wrong time. Indeed. Yeah, I think it's important to try and sow things at the right time. So that's another thing I think this notebook should include is a seed sowing planner. Now, we have one that sets out a rough idea of the times that we can sow seeds, just as a document on the inside, but also a sheet in there where anybody who uses it can write down what the seeds and when they're sowing them, a bit like these I've got the spreadsheets that we're seeing this evening and people are talking about. So what we worked out for this design of a notebook so far is waterproof paper, square lined design, seed sowing calendar, as well as what we can adjust. I think it's important to take notes, or the ability to take notes, to-do sheet as well, to-do list sheets. Perhaps a way, if we take photos, we can pop photos in there. Like I like to take a photo once a month of my allotment of my garden and just stick that in there. So you can see how things go along. And again, that could work in digital. Anything else anybody else would like to add to this notebook? How about, talking out loud, a harvest log? So when you harvest food, you can make a log of what you've harvested. That's just another idea I've got off the top of my head. What do you guys think about that? Dry marker pen to use it on the plan. Then you can rub it off if you need to. We use whiteboards all the time at school. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of whiteboards, a really big fan of whiteboards. Use them all the time and absolutely is a must. Might need an area for tips, what we've learned. That's a good one, actually. Tips. So you could, we'll have a page or a few pages that says, write tips that you've learned and who the tips you've heard them from as well. So you can always remember to either thank them or not thank them, depending on the results. For the planner, a section to note down sow dates. I agree with that, yeah. That's something, again, I struggle to do. So, yeah, I'm with that. Succession sowing is what I need to manage / remind myself to do. Okay, I like that idea. In fact, I think that's where perhaps setting yourself. So when I successionally sow in salad leaves, which I've done very easily, what I used to do every month, on the first of the month, I would sow the seeds in my veggie plant for salad leaves. This is, and I would only do about, a third of the veggie pod that month. The following month I would do the next third, and the third month I would do the next third. And I found that to work out really nicely because I could then harvest, sow, and eat all at the same time or as they were growing. So yeah, successional sowing. The first of a month is what I recommend if you're looking to do that because it's easy to remember. One thing I'm going to do this year, I'm going to weigh all my crops this year. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely something I tried and do in the past, and then it just becomes a bit difficult. So again, I want to be more organised with that this year. Toby Stream also agrees with Beatrice. Succession sowing, I forgot last year. Yeah, I agree with that. How about pouch pages to carry a few seed packets in when you go a sowing? Yeah, we can add that. just as a little idea. I've got no plans to publish this or anything. It's just a bit of fun, I thought, to get some ideas. Although if I do design something, you never know, I might feel creative one day. An area for days to feed plants. I feed it Friday, tick when completed. That's a good idea. Excuse me. That's a very good idea indeed. Feed it Friday. I like Feed It Friday as well. How about the time of the day you sow the seeds? Does it make a difference if you sow AM or PM? I don't think it does make any difference, in all honesty, but I've never really compared it to see what happens. We'll throw that out there and see if anybody else has any thoughts on that. Does it make a difference if you sow your seeds AM or PM? So something else I thought, just off the top of my head, something we should enter into this book is garden goals. I think we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. So just an area where we can say, right, this year I want to grow, let's say, I don't know, 100 kilos of potatoes. That's probably a bit excessive, but you get the idea. Or 50 kilos of carrots. And somewhere where we can go, make that note and try and tally it up as well. Just an idea. Sean Cameron sows by the moon, so add that to the list. Yeah, sowing by the moon is, I've not done it myself. A lot of people swear by it. Does make sense in some ways, but it's very difficult to understand. But yeah, if you're sowing by the moon, then perhaps that garden calendar would work in that as well. I would want it to adapt to everyone's gardening methods. I only ask because some people grow by the moon. Well, yeah, some people do grow by the moon. Now, I don't want to teach people how to suck eggs or anything, but when they say growing by the moon, it's not so much that they're out there in the middle of the night sowing them when the moon's out. It's more the time of the month when they start sowing them. So the moon obviously goes in cycles of full moon, half moon, and total eclipse, and so on. That all depends on when certain seeds are sown, depending on the phases of the moon. I think, and I could be wrong on this, like potatoes should be sown when the moon is full. Now, the theory on this is that the full moon, as we know, the moon does create a gravitational pull on the Earth, which is why we get tides. So it does affect the water, therefore, and that is supposedly be the theory why it can work in the garden. Whether it does or not is another thing. This year's goal is to sow more vegetable and grow one new plant that I've never grown before. That's a good goal, actually. Every year I try and have the goal that I grow a plant that I've never grown before. And this year it's chia. I think I've said this before, chia. Good. That's a good thing. Is anybody else actually trying to grow a plant that excuse me, sorry, I've never grown before? Excuse me, sorry. Good question. Good question indeed. Yeah. So we've got 14 minutes left to go of this show. If you want to zap yourself in, then please do on the link going up in the comments right now. Or you can call in on 07307 135 174. Be great to have a bit more chat, a bit more conversation to this. Alice McGowan, aubergines. I think that's something that she said. The question that something I've asked when something you've never grown before. Aubergines. In fact, I'll be sowing my aubergines in a couple of weeks' time, so I might actually do that live on this show for an aubergine grow along. I'll tell you what, that's what we're going to do next week. An aubergine grow along. We check out the chilies. Aubergine grow along next week. So everybody get your aubergines ready, aubergine seeds, and join in with that. I planted my potatoes on St. Patrick's Day last year. They were absolutely useless. I always go for St. Patrick's Day as well because it's usually around the 20th of March and stays around that time. Easter does move around, and that's why I find St. Patrick's Day to be a bit better. My goal is to build my new large veg garden after it's been terraced, a quarter of an acre. So got your work cut out. My garden goal is to transform my front garden. I should be focusing on planting for wildlife. I feel front gardens could be so much better out there. You know what? This is an interesting discussion that I'm having at the moment as well. My front garden, I think I said last week, my front garden isn't really used for food production. In fact, it's more of a driveway. And now I've got the camper van, the work van, and the car out there. We're sort of looking at it and thinking we need to drag out all the plants that are in the ground, like the privet bush, the other bushes like that, which we're going to do. We're going to get those out, get rid of them. But I'm thinking, well, instead of having plants in the ground, I'm going to have pots of currant bushes, gooseberry bushes, anything that's productive and turns that space into producing some food for us. That's not like vegetables that we have out the back, but something productive is what I guess I'm hinting at. That's my plans for my front garden. In fact, I've probably got to start that quite soon. And it's like the idea of the aubergine grow along for next week. Now, I know I said earlier it's too early to sow certain seeds, but I do find aubergines need a very long growing season, and I find sowing them January does work quite nicely. Helen, totally agree about front gardens. Lots of early and late flowers for bumblebees. Indeed, yeah. I think it's difficult because front gardens and driveways seem to go in place at the moment because, well, road parking, we've got too many cars. We can only fit one car on the road, and that means the people opposite us can't park on the road. So now our driveway has to be used. And I think it's difficult because I know we shouldn't be tarmacking over our driveways because it isn't good for the environment. Digwell, Garden by the Moon is said to work better for those growing in the soil and not raised beds, as it's based on the moon drawing water up and down, etc. It makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. Again, I don't know much about gardening by the moon. I get the idea, a bit like permaculture as well. I get the idea, but don't know enough about it to confidently talk about it. My front garden looks like the one on The Good Life. Indeed, it does. I've seen it. Lots of veggie pods, if I remember correctly, and veggie bags. Mine at the moment is just the front garden has just been one of those things that I just not really worried too much about. But I definitely do want to grow more out there. And I also think because I had to go in the front garden more, like going to work, coming home from work, it's probably going to be easier to look after because I'm there every day. Are there any websites for moon gardening? I want to sow more seeds direct this year. There probably is. I don't know of any off the top of my head, but there probably are lots of channels, lots of stuff out there about gardening by the moon. Idaho Garden Girl, late again. Sorry, no problem. Let us know quickly. We've got 10 minutes to go, but let us know, Idaho, how you go about planning your garden, your seed sowing plans, your rotational plans, and just your plans for the year. That's the subject for tonight. I think I've learned a lot. Like, it seems to me there's two different people in the audience: those that use a notepad and paper, and those that use spreadsheets. And each one, I think, reflects different personalities. Make sure you Google a UK-based one to be useful for you to turbo stream about gardening by the moon. Yeah, I'm sure if you do, I tell you what, shall we, I don't know if I can do this. Stop screen, share screen, Chrome tab. Oh, hang on. I'm just going to say I'll tap it into Google, but I can't quite do that at the moment. Charles Downing is well into moon gardening, has info on his site. Never knew he was into moon gardening. I know he's all about no dig, so moon gardening, another way to go about it. Sean Cameron had a good book he bought last year for Gardening by the Moon. Maybe check his channel. I know he's dabbled into Gardening by the Moon many times, so that's an interesting one. I'm in the Notepad group. I'm in the audio group. I talk into a microphone. I think that's the way. But I do like my to-do lists on whiteboards or paper. And a lot of it goes on in the head. But I'm going to try and change it. I've started using a gardening journal this year as I want to start working out which plants grow best at what time. That's something that I want to find out as well. I mean, I rely a lot on my experience and my previous year's knowledge to know when to sow seeds and when to get the best results. And I think it's very easy to rely on past experience, but sometimes it just a new perspective can be a good thing. Notepad as in pen and jotter from Alice. Yeah, indeed. Pen and paper is, I've got to say, I think pen and paper is probably the best way for me. But I'm looking at ways of being a bit more organised and get it online. Was that true? But he sows most of his crops in seed trays. That is for Helen about Charles Dowden. Indeed, he does. In fact, I found some of his seed trays when I was clearing out this garage, this shed, sorry. So yeah, I'm going to be looking at bringing those in soon and start sowing those. I think about what I want to grow. I have a huge spreadsheet with all the seed packets listed. Thinking I'll grow more storage veg. I have my garden schematic on graph paper, right on the diagram, take pics. I've got to say, actually, I should have said this at the beginning. About December, I always like to sit down and write a list of what I want to grow in the next year, and go through my seed boxes and see what I've got and what I haven't got, and then go from there. Sometimes I might write something down and never get around to it, and that's something I'm trying to trying to knock on the head, so actually I do what I say I want to do and get it done. I sow most of my crops in seed trays. Yeah, I've got to say I'm a big one for sowing in seed trays as well. My little green trays, you'll see them next week when we do the aubergine grow along. I'm looking forward to the aubergine grow along now, actually. As a vegetable growing is still very new to me and each year is different. So hopefully by the next couple of years, I should be able to do better planning. Indeed. I mean, I've always said the great thing is about vegetable gardening is that people have done it for years and there's lots of information. There's also a lot of bad information out there, but it's about tailoring it to your individual needs. Watch back this stream. Digwell's spreadsheet is impressive. Indeed, it is very impressive. I'm not using any knowledge gained from 2021 in the coming year. 2021 has been a bad year, I think it's safe to say. But I think it's important to note it's been a bad year because of how wet it's been. Now, I made a prediction last year that we were in for a wet summer. I think it was around this time last year that I sat here and said, I think we're in for a wet summer. So what do I think for this year? I think we've had quite a wet, cold autumn, a wet, cold winter so far. So I think this summer is going to be, I don't think it's going to be hot, roasting hot, but I think it's going to be dry. Excuse me. In fact, I'm going to go far to say I think we're going to have a dry spring. So get those water butts ready to catch as much water as possible, based on my prediction. Don't know what anybody else thinks on that, but that's my prediction. There we go. Right, so just a couple of minutes to go before we close it up. Just want to remind aubergine growing along next week. I'll be sowing some aubergine seeds. I'll talk about how I grow them. If anybody has any tips on how to grow aubergines, and that they would like to share, then please do get them ready to share in. Don't forget to send us any videos as well. Could be a plot tour, anything to do with gardening questions are also great on a video as well, and we can play that in next week and add a bit of different things. Richard, give us a list of components we need for sowing in the next week's show so we can do it all together. Right, so you need some seed trays, seed sowing compost, perlite, and the seeds, and some water in a spray can. Also, if you have heated propagators and grow lights, they would be useful. If you haven't, don't worry, we'll put them somewhere warm. Excuse me, my nose was a bit blocked there. So yeah, does that help? April was colder than January, and May was the 5th wettest on record. Indeed it was, indeedly. 2021 in the Midlands was dry from what I remember. Yes, I remember you were saying it was going to be wet, so you can get it correct again. You were spot on last year. I do find that, yeah. 2021 was not great. Surgery, recovery, thieves. 2022 is going to be so much better. I totally agree. Stuart Jackson asks, why perlite? Well, you don't have to add perlite. It's what I add, but I just find added to specifically seed sowing compost, it helps with drainage on the compost, but it also acts as a sponge, which helps keeps the soil a bit damper without flooding it. So that's why I suggest perlite. Also, you can cover the top of the seeds with perlite, because it's so light and easy. The seeds have an easy time to break through. Right, Ballysean says great on the list. Hopefully I don't get long COVID this year. Really knackered up 21 for me. Yeah, and spot on Origix with my guess for the weather. I agree. Yeah, because it's spot on, or was it a jinx? I think 2022, as Turbo Stream says, will be better for all of us. Indeed, it will. Right. Idaho, mine wasn't a good year. Dislocated and fractured ankle January, moved county from Sussex to Cornwall, and totally overgrown. Didn't get till July. But 2022 is going to be the year that we'll make the changes. Perlite makes the compost water retentive but free draining. Indeed. Great. I will make sure I use it for next week. Fantastic. Right, I am going to wrap this up this evening. Thanks so much for joining me. It's been fun. It's been great to learn how you will go about planning your allotments and planning your gardens. I think it's going to be an essential lesson for 2022. As we're all saying, I think 2022 is going to be a much better year for all of us. I know we're already, this is the third Sunday of 2020. Is it third? No, second Sunday of 2022. So lots that can get done. Right, guys, I'm going to close this up. Thanks so much for joining me. It's been great. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, follow, click the notification to know when we go live and all that jazz. We'll be back again next Sunday, 6 o'clock in UK time, or what's it, Universal time, isn't it, or something? And as I say, it'll be an aubergine seed sowing. We'll see so long. So I look forward to seeing you all there. That's it for this week. Take care. And I will say goodbye once I bring it up, set this up. There we go. Bye-bye for now.